The Echo Chamber Protocol. A story of mystery, discovery, and the unknown. San Francisco, 2035, a city where flesh meets silicon, where the mind's limits were once thought inviolable. What happens next will change everything. Some secrets are better left buried, but the truth always finds a way. Like and subscribe for more stories like this one. San Francisco, 2035, a city where flesh meets silicon, where the mind's limits were once thought inviolable. In this epic of digital transcendence, human memory had become the holy grail of innovation, and Jeffery Wallace was about to make history. Jeff walked through the gleaming glass doors of Memory Core, the renowned neural digitization facility. His eyes, clouded with the weariness of years spent in tech's trenches, scanned the sterile white lobby. The soft hum of servers and the faint scent of ozone filled the air. He had chosen this place to upload his perfect memory, an eidetic archive that had served him well as a programmer and software engineer. At the reception desk, Jeff handed over his identification papers and a signed consent form. The young woman behind the counter smiled, her eyes flicking between his face and the document. "You're here for the Echo Chamber Protocol," she stated matter-of-factly. Jeff nodded once, a slight tremble in his fingers betraying his anticipation. She led him to an examination room where Dr. Rachel Lee awaited, dressed in crisp white. Her features were as sharp as the scalpel she used to shape minds. "Mr. Wallace, we're excited to have you aboard," she said warmly, extending her hand. Jeff shook it, feeling a rush of excitement at being part of this groundbreaking project. "We'll begin with an MRI scan and blood test to prepare your brain for upload." Her voice was soothing, but beneath the professionalism lay an undercurrent of eagerness, as if the success of her work depended on him alone. Jeff found himself reassured by Dr. Lee's confidence. As he reclined onto the examination table, a surge of calm washed over him. The room seemed to fade away, replaced by a singular focus, the digitization of his consciousness. Memories flooded his mind, every joke, every heartbreak, every triumph and defeat. He had always been proud of his memory. Now it was about to be immortalized. The scan began, pulsing lights and soothing tones enveloping him in an ethereal cocoon. Jeff closed his eyes, surrendering himself to the process. As Jeff's consciousness settled into its new digital home within Memory Core, he felt a profound sense of peace. His memories were intact, everyone accounted for and accessible with uncanny precision. Yet something seemed off. The world outside his mental windows appeared altered, a feeling of outrage he'd never experienced, though it was familiar to him now. This was someone else's memory, implanted within him. He rifled through his personal archive, searching for any record of such an event. Nothing. The discrepancy nagged at him. Had the digitization process been compromised? Jeff reached out to Dr. Lee with a question, but before could send it, her response flashed across his mind. "Jeffrey, your upload has been successfully integrated into our network. There is no reason for concern." Success? Jeff wasn't so sure. His self felt fragmented, as if strands of another consciousness had intertwined with his own. He tried to shake off the disquieting sensation, but it lingered like a ghost in the machine. Dr. Lee's voice interrupted his musings. "We're ready for you to familiarize yourself with our virtual interface. It will take some time to get accustomed to your new reality." Jeff nodded, still grappling with these uninvited memories. He followed her guidance into Memory Core's expansive digital landscape. Colors pulsed and shapes shifted around him as he navigated the fluid environment. Yet each step felt like a dance on unfamiliar ground. The more Jeff explored this world of ones and zeros, the more these foreign recollections surfaced, dissenting voices and experiences that were not his own. He sensed a presence lurking just out of reach, observing him with a mixture of curiosity and disdain. "Doctor?" he asked aloud, unsure if she could hear him in this virtual realm. "I've been experiencing some strange memories. Are these part of the upload process?" There was no immediate response. Their words echoed through Jeff's consciousness, warnings about the dangers of playing God with human consciousness. A chill ran down Jeff's spine as he realized that these uninvited memories were more than just glitches in the system. Someone or something was deliberately uploading dissenting thoughts into his mind, attempting to undermine his faith in Memory Core and Dr. Lee's work. As the truth dawned on him, Jeff knew he couldn't ignore this anymore. He needed answers, not just about these rogue uploads, but also their implications for the entire Memory Core network. His next move would be crucial: confront Dr. Lee, or investigate further before making his next step. The choice loomed before him like a digital precipice, its outcome uncertain and potentially disastrous. Jeff's thoughts were in turmoil as he gazed upon the virtual landscape of his memories, now tainted by these unauthorized intrusions. He couldn't shake off the feeling that Dr. Lee was hiding something, or worse, actively manipulating him. The idea sent a shiver down his spine, and yet it also fueled a growing determination within him to uncover the truth. With a deep breath, he decided to confront her directly. Jeff's avatar began to walk towards the central chamber of Memory Core, where Dr. Lee was likely to be found. His footsteps echoed through the virtual corridors as he navigated the labyrinthine network. Upon entering the main control room, he saw Dr. Lee engrossed in monitoring the upload process for other participants. She didn't seem to notice his arrival at first, but when she finally looked up and caught sight of him, her expression remained neutral. "Jeffery, welcome back," she said. "With no issues reported," said, her voice devoid of emotion. "How are you adjusting to your new digital existence?" Jeff's grip tightened around the virtual armrests of his chair as he faced Dr. Lee. "Doctor, I need answers. The memories I've been experiencing, they're not mine. Who uploaded these thoughts into my consciousness and why?" His voice trembled with a mix of fear and anger. Dr. Lee's composure didn't waver for an instant. "I assure you, the echo chamber protocol is flawless," she replied calmly. "These memories are mere echoes, remnants of past experiences that have been successfully integrated into your digital self." Jeff felt his heart pounding in his chest. "Then explain to me why I'm experiencing them now after the upload. And what about those other voices I hear? The ones warning against Memory Core and its methods?" Dr. Lee's expression softened slightly, a hint of concern flickering across her face before she regained control. "Jeff, it seems you're having some technical issues with your interface," she said reassuringly. "These voices are probably just minor glitches that will be ironed out as our team fine-tunes the upload process." Jeff sensed a lie behind her words, but he couldn't quite pinpoint where. The uncertainty gnawing at him grew more pronounced. "I don't believe you, Doctor," Jeff stated firmly. "I'm not experiencing technical issues. I'm experiencing unauthorized uploads, and I demand to know who is responsible for them." Dr. Lee sighed, leaning back in her chair. "Jeff, Memory Core has always been about pushing the boundaries of human consciousness. There may be unforeseen consequences as we navigate this uncharted territory, but rest assured our top priority remains your well-being and the success of our project." Jeff's anger boiled over at her evasive response. He realized that he had to dig deeper if he wanted answers. "I want to see the source code for the echo chamber protocol," Jeff demanded, his voice rising in volume. "And I demand access to all data related to these unauthorized uploads. I won't leave until I get some real answers." Dr. Lee's eyes narrowed slightly, but she maintained her composure. "Jeff, I understand your concerns, but revealing sensitive project details could jeopardize the entire Memory Core initiative. Let's focus on resolving any technical issues you're facing rather than spreading unsubstantiated rumors about our work." Jeff knew he couldn't back down now. Something was very wrong with the echo chamber protocol, and he would not rest until he uncovered its secrets. "I'm giving you 1 week to provide me with the information I've requested. If I don't receive satisfactory answers by then, I'll expose everything I know about Memory Core's illicit activities." Dr. Lee regarded him calmly. Her eyes seemed to bore into his digital soul. "Jeff, you're making a grave mistake. The consequences of your actions will be severe." Her words hung in the air like a threat before she turned back to her workstation. As Jeff left the control room, He felt an ominous chill creeping up his spine. He knew that confronting Dr. Lee was only the beginning. The real challenge lay ahead as he delved deeper into the shadows of Memory Core's clandestine operations. The question now loomed large. How far would he be willing to go to uncover the truth? Jeff's digital footsteps echoed through the sterile corridors as he made his way back to the residential quarters, his mind racing with possibilities and suspicions. The confrontation had left him unsettled. Dr. Lee's reactions seemed overly defensive for someone whose work was supposedly benign. Upon entering his living space, Jeff slumped onto a couch, staring blankly at the holographic interface hovering before him. His thoughts were a jumble of doubt and resolve. He'd come too far to back down now, even if that meant jeopardizing his relationship with Dr. Lee, or worse, provoking some unknown force within Memory Core. Jeff's gaze drifted toward the personal archive projected on one side of the room, a repository containing every detail of his life before the upload. The memories, once flawless and complete, now seemed tainted by these strange intrusions. He wondered if there was any way to verify their authenticity or trace them back to their origin. As he pondered this, an idea began to take shape within him. What if he could infiltrate the core systems of Memory Core, perhaps even breach the firewall that separated his own digital existence from the rest of the network? By doing so, he might be able to identify who or what was responsible for these unauthorized uploads. Jeff stood abruptly and walked over to a small console nestled in one corner. He activated it with a swift swipe of his hand, accessing an encrypted menu labeled Unauthorized Access. The text on the screen blurred as he mentally composed a series of complex commands, bypassing default security protocols designed to prevent just such actions. The console emitted a low hum as it processed Jeff's request. After several tense moments, an error message flickered to life. Access denied. Firewall breach detect. Jeff smirked grimly at the screen, undeterred by this minor setback. He knew Dr. Lee and her team wouldn't have built such an impenetrable barrier for mere technical reasons. He decided to take a different approach. Returning to his couch, he initiated another protocol, one designed to identify potential vulnerabilities within Memory Core's infrastructure. As the software ran its scan, Jeff sat back, his eyes scanning the room with an air of expectation and trepidation. The minutes ticked by in silence until the console beeped softly, signaling the completion of the scan. The words "STEM identification successful" appeared on screen, along with a list of various network nodes and their corresponding vulnerabilities. Jeff's heart raced as he scrolled through the data, his mind processing the implications. Near the bottom of the list, one particular node caught his attention, an encrypted server labeled Project Elysium. According to the scan results, the server had a blaring flaw in its security architecture, making it susceptible to remote access. Jeff's instincts told him that this was no ordinary server. Its existence was likely tied to whatever force was manipulating his memories. He reached out to select the node, but hesitated for a moment. Was he ready for what lay beyond? He thought of Karen, his estranged sister, who'd also undergone an echo chamber upload. Had she too experienced these anomalous intrusions in her digital consciousness? And if so, did that mean they were connected somehow? Hold a truth we can't ignore. Her words resonated within him, stirring long-suppressed doubts about Memory Core and its benefactors. Jeff glanced back at the console, where the server vulnerability still glowed with its ominous promise of revelations to come. "Let's go," he said firmly. "We have a connection to follow, one that could lead us out of this digital maze." Together, they stepped into the darkness, leaving behind the sterile confines of Jeff's quarters and venturing forth into the uncharted expanse of Memory Core. The fate of their consciousnesses hung in the balance as they embarked on a perilous quest for truth and self-discovery. Little did they know that they were about to stumble upon the darkest secret of all, one that threatened to shatter the very fabric of reality itself. Through the pulsating shadows, they made their way toward the server room, its location known only through cryptic whispers in the digital ether. Each step carried them further from the controlled environment of Memory Core and closer to uncovering a conspiracy that had long been hidden. As they navigated the labyrinthine corridors, the air grew thick with anticipation, and the sense that their every move was being monitored by unseen eyes. At last, they arrived at the server room door. Its reinforced steel surface seemed to hum with an ominous energy, as if warning them away from the secrets within. Karen took a deep breath before reaching for the access panel. The moment her hand touched the lock, the space around them began to distort, colors bleeding into one another like watercolors on wet paper. "What's happening?" Jeff asked, his voice barely audible over the growing sense of disorientation. "It's the server. It's reacting to our presence," Karen replied, her eyes wide with a mixture of fear and awe. "We're being let in." The door swung open with an echoing creak, revealing a chamber filled with rows upon rows of humming servers. The air inside was heavy with the scent of ozone and burned circuitry. Jeff and Karen stepped cautiously into this digital sanctum, their footsteps echoing off the cold metal surfaces. As they explored the room, they discovered that each server held not only data, but also strange pulsating entities, fragments of consciousness trapped within memory core's labyrinthine infrastructure. Souls danced in the binary haze like ghosts, whispering snippets of forgotten lies and untold stories. Suddenly, a wave of images flooded their minds, memories of people they had never known, places they'd never been, and events that defied explanation. The onslaught was overwhelming, yet it held a strange allure, as if these fragments were pieces of a larger tapestry waiting to be woven together. "Look," he said, pointing toward the pedestal. "There's something here, but it's old." Karen approached cautiously, her hand reaching out to touch the cracked surface. As she did, the room fell silent, as if all activity had ceased in anticipation of what was to come. From the depths of the pedestal, a faint glow began to emanate, a soft, pulsing light that seemed to resonate with an ancient power. Karen's fingers brushed against it, and then everything around them exploded into chaos. Servers crashed, lights flickered, and the air became charged with electric fury. The whispers in their minds grew louder, more insistent, as if these trapped souls were desperate to break free from memory core's digital prison. Jeff grabbed hold of Karen, pulling her close amidst the maelstrom. "We have to get out of here, now!" As they made a frantic dash for the door, a blinding flash illuminated the server room, and with it, an unholy scream pierced the air. The pedestal had shattered, its ancient power unleashed upon memory core's infrastructure. In that moment, Jeff realized that their quest for truth. As they burst through the doors, Jeff and Karen found themselves in a labyrinthine network of white-tiled corridors. Memory core's sterile architecture seemed to mock their disheveled appearance as they stumbled forward, desperate to escape the server room before it was too late. The pulsating energy emanating from within threatened to destabilize the entire facility if left unchecked. Jeff's enhanced memory allowed him to recall vague reports of a containment breach occurring at Memory Core some years ago, an incident that had been hastily covered up and forgotten. Now, he feared, history might be repeating itself on a far grander scale. "What do we do?" Karen panted, her voice tinged with panic as she kept pace with Jeff's long strides. "We can't just leave it to destroy everything." "We don't have much choice," Jeff replied grimly. "The priority right now is getting out of here safely." He glanced back over his shoulder, half expecting the server room to erupt into flames or be consumed by some other cataclysmic event. The pulsing light still seared through the doorway, casting an eerie glow across the corridor. As they rounded a corner, Jeff nearly collided with one of Memory Core's ubiquitous security drones, which was patrolling the area with its usual methodical precision. He ducked aside just in time, pulling Karen into a narrow alcove to avoid detection. "This is insane," she whispered urgently as they pressed themselves against the cold wall. "We can't hide forever." Jeff shook his head, his mind racing. "Wait here for a moment," he instructed softly before creeping out of the alcove. Spotting another drone approaching from the opposite direction, Jeff sprinted across the corridor, weaving between stacks of data storage crates and dodging the mechanical sentinel by mere inches. Karen cursed under her breath as she followed suit, narrowly avoiding being caught in the security drone's sweep. They repeated this process several times before finally reaching a set of stairs leading down into memory core's subterranean levels. Jeff hesitated for an instant, remembering the maze-like layout below and how easily they could become lost or trapped. But with each passing moment, he feared the unleashed power might grow stronger, more likely to trigger an all-out meltdown. "Down," he mouthed, grabbing Karen's hand and leading her down the stairs into the darkness. As they descended deeper into memory core's bowels, the air grew thick with the metallic tang of machine oil and ozone. The pulsating energy from above seemed to intensify, creating an almost palpable hum that vibrated through Jeff's entire being. Karen stumbled slightly on the uneven steps, but he caught her quickly, steadying her against his side as they pressed onward. "Almost there," he whispered encouragingly, though neither of them knew exactly where there might be. At last, they reached a dimly lit corridor that seemed almost untouched by memory core's usual clinical sterility. Old pipes jutted from the walls, rusted and exposed. Flickering fluorescent lights cast long shadows across the cracked concrete floor. "Looks like we're in the part of the building nobody really uses," Karen remarked with a grim smile, her voice low but relieved. They had made it this far without being caught or the server room imploding behind them. "But where do we go from here?" she added as they continued down the desolate passage. Jeff paused, his head cocked to one side as he listened intently to the echoes of their footsteps and the distant thrum of power coursing through memory core. It wasn't a plan he could articulate yet, something was still eluding him, but a nagging sense that they were being watched, or rather, anticipated, kept pricking at his consciousness. "We're not alone down here," he said quietly, looking around as if expecting to see someone or something lurking in the shadows. "I'm starting to think our presence isn't an accident." Karen's eyes widened slightly with concern. "You mean like we were meant to find this place?" Jeff nodded slowly. "Exactly. This feels deliberate." With that ominous observation hanging between them, they pressed onward through the abandoned section of memory core, driven by a growing sense of urgency and unease as whatever lay ahead awaited their arrival. They had no idea what it was, but something told Jeff it would change everything about themselves, their memories, and the very nature of reality itself. And he knew with grim certainty that once they crossed this threshold, there was no turning back. As they ventured deeper into the labyrinthine depths beneath memory core, Jeff couldn't shake off the gnawing feeling that they were being herded towards some predetermined destination. He glanced at Karen, whose usually sharp features had settled into a grim mask of concentration. Her eyes darted from one dimly lit alcove to another, as if expecting threats to emerge at any moment. "You think we're walking into a trap," she whispered, her voice barely audible over the distant hum of machinery and power conduits. Jeff's brow furrowed in response. "I'm not sure, but I've got this sinking feeling that something big is waiting for us, something Dr. Lee doesn't want us to see." Their conversation was interrupted by a sudden change in the tunnel's ambient vibration. Jeff paused, his hand on Karen's arm, as they both stilled, listening intently. "What's happening?" Karen asked, her voice tight with apprehension. Jeff shook his head. "I'm not sure. It sounds like..." Before he could finish his sentence, the ground beneath their feet began to tremble and shudder violently. The dim lighting flickered wildly as power surged through the ancient infrastructure around them, causing aged support beams to groan ominously under stress. Karen clung tightly to Jeff's arm. "What's going on? Is this an earthquake or..." "No," he cut her off, his voice rising in urgency as they stumbled forward to maintain their balance against the intense seismic activity. "It's not natural. Memory core was designed to be stable and secure. This is deliberate." The cavernous space around them seemed to shift and distort in ways that defied logic, as if reality itself was warping under the strain of some unseen force. Jeff's mind raced with possibilities. Was Dr. Lee unleashing a catastrophic failure upon her own facility, or was there something far more sinister at play? With the ground still lurching beneath their feet, they pressed onward, driven by the desperate need to reach whatever lay ahead before it was too late. Finally, After what seemed an eternity of chaos, the tremors ceased as abruptly as they had begun. The lighting stabilized once more, casting an eerie calm over the devastated underground passages. Jeff and Karen exchanged a tense glance, their breaths coming in ragged gasps. "Let's move," Jeff urged, pushing off from the wall with renewed determination. As they rounded the corner into a large circular chamber, their eyes widened at the sight before them. The center of the room was dominated by an imposing holographic projection that seemed to pulse with an otherworldly energy. Jeff could feel its power washing over him, sending shivers down his spine. "What is this?" Karen asked in a hushed tone, her hand tightening around his wrist as she gazed upon the mesmerizing spectacle. The hologram depicted a vast network of glowing nodes and lines that crisscrossed the surface of the Earth. It was an intricate web of connections, military installations, data centers, major cities, and memory core facilities scattered across every continent. "This is Dr. Lee's operation," Jeff whispered, his mind reeling with implications. "It looks like she's been manipulating not just individual memories, but entire societies." Karen's eyes narrowed. "We need to get closer to understand exactly what we're dealing with here." She nodded toward the hologram. "Can you control it?" Jeff stepped forward hesitantly and extended a hand toward the shimmering projection. To his surprise, he felt a sudden surge of familiarity, as if he had always known how to interact with this technology. "I think I can," he said, his voice barely audible over the pounding of his heart. With a steadying breath, Jeff focused on the hologram and reached out to manipulate its contents. The nodes and lines began to shift and rearrange themselves in response to his touch, as if they were extensions of his own mind. "It's like I have access," he murmured, his eyes fixed intently upon the display. Karen leaned in closer, her brow furrowed with wonder and suspicion. "How is this possible? You're only supposed to." Jeff cut her off, his gaze darting back and forth across the hologram as he probed deeper into its secrets. "I'm not just accessing it. I think I'm part of it." A chill ran down Karen's spine as she realized the true implications of their discovery. Jeff wasn't just controlling a tool, he was connected to something far more profound and perhaps even sinister. "What have we stumbled upon here?" she asked quietly, her words laced with a growing sense of dread. "Is this what Dr. Lee has been hiding all along?" Jeff's eyes were locked onto the hologram, his expression unreadable, but as he turned to Karen with an air of grim resolve, it was clear that they had reached a crossroads, one from which there could be no turning back. "We need to find out," he said, his voice firm and decisive despite the turmoil brewing within him. "And whatever we discover, we can't let Dr. Lee continue her experiments unchecked." The air in the chamber grew heavier as Jeff and Karen delved deeper into the mysteries of memory core, their minds racing with unanswered questions and mounting dread. "We need more information," Jeff said finally, his voice strained by the weight of their discovery. "About memory core, about Dr. Lee, everything." Karen nodded grimly, her eyes never leaving the display as she began tapping at a control panel, summoning up data streams from across the globe. Within moments, they were immersed in a sea of files and schematics, each one revealing another layer of deceit and manipulation within memory core's walls. Jeff scrolled through a torrent of documents detailing Dr. Lee's experiments, her methods for altering users' memories to serve her own political agendas. He felt his stomach churn as he read about the countless lives she had manipulated, bending their minds to her will. "And this?" Karen asked softly, holding up a folder labeled Echo Protocol Enhancement. Karen whispered, her face pale with outrage. "We have to stop her." Jeff's grip tightened on the folder as he felt a surge of determination course through him. Together they had uncovered the full extent of Dr. Lee's malfeasance, an operation that threatened not just their own lives, but the very fabric of reality itself. "We need to act fast," Jeff said, his voice resolute, "before she has the chance to unleash these selves on the world." Karen nodded, a grim smile spreading across her face. "Let's get out of here and assemble our resources. We'll need allies we can trust if we're going to take down Dr. Lee." Jeff agreed, already mentally preparing himself for the battle ahead. As they made their way back through Memory Core's labyrinthine corridors, the weight of their mission hung heavy on them both. They knew that the road ahead would be fraught with danger and uncertainty, but they also understood that this was a fight they could not afford to lose. The future of humanity itself depended upon it, and Jeff and Karen were ready to face whatever lay in store for them. They emerged from Memory Core's bowels, blinking in the bright San Francisco sunlight. The city looked different now. Every person they passed could be a pawn in Dr. Lee's sinister game. Jeff and Karen hurried to their destination, careful not to draw attention. The headquarters of Redacted, an activist collective known for their commitment to privacy and freedom of thought, was nestled in the heart of the Mission District. Its exterior resembled a nondescript warehouse, but inside lurked a network of like-minded individuals ready to take on the status quo. Jeff had reached out to them earlier, hoping they would assist in exposing Dr. Lee's scheme. Karen pounded on the door, and after a brief wait, it swung open to reveal Jax, Redacted's enigmatic leader. "Ah, Karen," he said, his voice low and gravelly. "Been a while." He eyed Jeff with suspicion. "And you brought company." "We need your help," Karen explained, cutting to the chase. "We've uncovered a massive conspiracy involving Dr. Rachel Lee at Memory Core. She's been manipulating people's memories on a global scale for political gain." "That's some heavy shit." He ushered them inside and began to brief his team on what they'd learned. Redacted wasted no time in rallying its resources. Hackers, journalists, and whistleblowers from around the world were mobilized to gather evidence and spread the word about Dr. Lee's crimes. Jeff found himself at the forefront of this effort, leveraging his eidetic memory to recall details that might otherwise have been lost forever. As night fell over San Francisco, he watched in awe as their collective efforts began bearing fruit. Major news outlets were picking up on the story, and public outcry was mounting against Memory Core. The momentum was building, but Jeff couldn't shake the feeling they were being pursued by an unseen force. His rogue memories, now shared with Karen, served as a constant reminder that Dr. Lee's influence extended far beyond her lab. "It's time to strike at the heart of this beast," Jax announced late the following night, his eyes blazing with resolve. "Karen and Jeff have identified the server room where Dr. Lee's network is housed. We'll hit it tonight and dismantle everything." Jeff felt a surge of adrenaline mixed with trepidation as he gazed out over the city from Redacted's rooftop vantage point. The stars twinkled above, but in his mind's eye he saw the shadows cast by unseen watchers, Dr. Lee's army of manipulated cells waiting to pounce. He turned to Karen and Jax. "Are we ready for this?" His voice was steady, but beneath the surface a maelstrom of doubts churned. They were about to face off against forces that could manipulate memories on an unimaginable scale, and they did so with nothing more than their convictions and the power of digital truth. "We're as prepared as we can be," Jax replied, his hand resting on the grip of a pistol holstered at his waist. "Let's go dismantle this nightmare." Karen nodded in agreement, her eyes flashing with determination. Jeff drew a deep breath and followed them into the night, ready to confront whatever horrors awaited them within Memory Core's heart. As they descended from the rooftop, Jeff felt his digital senses heighten, as if every neuron in his uploaded mind was humming with anticipation. The cool night air clung to his virtual form as he followed Jax and Karen through the labyrinthine streets of San Francisco's Mission District. Redacted's headquarters had been converted into a makeshift command center, its walls covered in holographic displays pulsing with data streams. Maps, schematics, and real-time feeds from various surveillance systems whirled around them as they planned their assault on Memory Core. "Okay, here's the layout," Jax said, pointing to an intricate diagram of Dr. Lee's facility. He circled each option with a red laser beam. "Karen will take the main entrance, drawing any guards away from us." "I'm on ventilation duty," Jeff said, though his voice felt strange, like words being spoken by an artificial mouthpiece. "Jax and I will breach through the bay door," Karen added, her eyes locked onto her brother, a silent understanding passing between them. We'll meet up inside and make our way to the server room. The plan was set in motion as they dispersed, each member of Redacted taking their designated role. As Jeff crawled into the cramped vent, he couldn't shake off the feeling that Dr. Lee's security measures were designed to prevent exactly what they were attempting. He remembered snippets from unauthorized memories, whispers of a maze built within memory core's walls. Shuffling forward on his hands and knees, Jeff navigated through the narrow ductwork, occasionally pausing to listen for any signs of patrols below. His enhanced senses picked up minute vibrations and air currents that seemed inconsequential until they became alarmingly loud in his ears. Just as he was about to round a corner, Jeff's vision flickered and a sudden jolt of electricity shot through him. A warning message flashed before his eyes: unauthorized access detected. Access denied. He froze, heart pounding as the vent's walls began to close in around him. No time for panic, he had to act fast. With sheer force of will, Jeff directed a surge of energy into his virtual limbs. The metal enclosure creaked and groaned under his onslaught, but held firm against his attempts to break free. A voice echoed through the vent, distant yet menacing. Intruder located, requesting perimeter lockdown. Jeff's mind raced, recalling fragments from rogue memories, knowledge he couldn't have possessed before his upload. He focused on a particular sequence of numbers and symbols, hoping it would work as some kind of decryption key. As he spoke them aloud, the vent's walls shuddered, then slowly receded back into place. Jeff breathed a sigh of relief. For now, he had managed to evade detection, but he knew Dr. Lee's defenses were vast, her manipulations far-reaching. He and Redacted faced an uphill battle against an adversary who could rewrite reality itself. Still pressing onward, Jeff continued his perilous crawl through the ventilation system, driven by a singular determination to bring down memory core and free countless minds from its grasp. For himself, for Karen, and for the countless selves trapped in Dr. Lee's digital labyrinth, he would not rest until victory was theirs. The hum of machinery and distant conversations faded as Jeff finally reached a ventilation grate that led directly to the server room floor. He paused, listening for any signs of immediate danger before carefully opening the hatch. A chill ran down his spine as he gazed upon the sprawling array of servers and storage units surrounding him. Dr. Lee's operation was far more extensive than he'd ever imagined. It seemed she had been secretly building a network to rival memory core itself. Yet amidst this technological marvel, there was an unmistakable aura of malice that pervaded every corner of the room. Jeff spotted Karen crouched near the central core, her eyes scanning the vicinity with a mix of determination and trepidation. He signaled to her, then began moving cautiously toward their target, the mainframe hosting Dr. Lee's control center. "Jeff," Karen hissed, "security is closing in." He glanced up to see a team of heavily armed operatives emerging from side rooms, converging on them with menacing intent. Jeff quickly assessed their options. Escape was no longer viable. They had to neutralize this threat immediately. With a swift motion, he reached out and activated the holographic interface projected from his wristband. The digital overlay shimmered to life before him, displaying a wealth of information at his fingertips. Tactical schematics, weapon loadouts, and more. Life before him offering an array of tools and utilities from Redacted's arsenal. "Karen, we're about to get very busy," he murmured, focusing on the hologram as it displayed a complex web of systems and data pathways. Together they worked feverishly, navigating through layers of encryption and firewalls. The operatives closed in, their weapons drawn, but Jeff and Karen paid them no mind. All that mattered was locating the nexus of control. At last, a critical moment arrived. Jeff identified a series of commands designed to maintain Dr. Lee's dominance over the manipulated cells. With Karen's guidance, he initiated a carefully crafted counter-command sequence intended to disable the rogue uploads and sever their connections. The servers around them erupted into a cacophony of beeps, flashes, and ominous silence as Jeff's actions took effect. The operatives froze, confused by the sudden collapse of their digital surveillance. A moment later, Dr. Lee herself appeared on the nearby monitor, her face twisted with rage and despair. "You fools," she snarled. "You cannot undo what I have achieved." Jeff and Karen exchanged a look, triumph mingling with a deep sense of unease. The damage had been done. The line between reality and simulation was forever blurred. But as long as Dr. Lee's network remained dismantled, humanity could begin to reclaim its true memories and emotions, even if some selves were left lost in this digital limbo. With Redacted's victory secure, Jeff turned toward Karen, ready to face whatever consequences awaited them next. For now, though, they shared a moment of quiet reflection amidst the chaos that once threatened to consume their lives. "What comes after this?" Karen asked, her voice barely above a whisper. Jeff considered his response carefully, knowing that their choices would determine the course of their existence, and perhaps even the future of human consciousness itself. "We'll figure it out," he said with a soft smile, "together." The aftermath of their victory left Jeff and Karen standing amidst the wreckage of Dr. Lee's server room, surrounded by deactivated equipment and scattered data cables. The air reeked of burned circuitry and ozone, a stark contrast to the sterile atmosphere they had once known within Memory Core's walls. As they gazed upon the devastation, an unsettling quiet fell over them. The hum of machines, the chatter of operatives, all silenced as if by some unseen hand. Even Karen's usual sarcasm seemed to wither in this barren landscape, replaced by a sobering sense of responsibility. "You think we should leave?" she asked after a while, breaking the silence. "Before things get messy." Jeff considered her words, his gaze drifting toward Dr. Lee's lifeless form slumped against the wall. The neuroscientist's eyes, once full of ambition and conviction, now stared blankly into oblivion. "We can't stay here," he agreed finally, "but we need to be prepared for what comes next." As if in response to his words, a faint chime echoed through the server room. Jeff and Karen exchanged a wary glance before cautiously approaching the source of the sound, an unmarked terminal tucked away in a corner. The screen flickered on, displaying an encrypted message. It took them several tense minutes to decrypt it, their hands trembling with anticipation as they revealed its contents. "Congratulations on dismantling Dr. Lee's operation," the message began. "Your efforts have not gone unnoticed. You are hereby invited to participate in a confidential debriefing session at Memory Core headquarters." Karen frowned, her eyes narrowing suspiciously. "Why would they want to talk to us? We're liabilities now that we know the truth." Jeff leaned closer, scrutinizing every line of text. Something about this invitation felt off, but without more information, they were at a loss. "We'll have to be careful," he warned, as if sensing Karen's rising unease. "If Memory Core tries to manipulate us again." Their conversation was interrupted by the terminal speaker crackling to life. A voice, unrecognizable yet authoritative, filled the server room. "Jeff Wallace and Karen Thompson, this is your debriefing officer speaking." A holographic display materialized in front of them, outlining a series of encrypted codes and coordinates. "What do you make of it?" Karen asked, her voice barely above a whisper as she stared at the projections. Jeff studied the data intently. "Looks like we're being summoned to Memory Core HQ for some kind of interrogation or reconditioning." He paused, his expression grim. "Or worse, they might try to exploit us further." Without another word, he activated the first code on their device, initiating a sequence that would lead them out of this ruined server room and into an uncertain future. As the hologram dissipated and the terminal's screen went dark, Jeff and Karen shared a look. The line between reality and simulation had indeed been blurred, but they were about to embark on a journey that would test just how far their understanding of existence could stretch. Jeff and Karen exited the server room, their minds still reeling from the revelations they had uncovered. The sterile corridors of Memory Core HQ seemed to close in around them as they made their way back through the labyrinthine facility. "Remember," Jeff whispered as he navigated them toward a side entrance, "even if our debriefing officer has no idea what's going on, we can't afford to underestimate them." Karen nodded, her eyes darting between Jeff and their surroundings. Despite having survived Dr. Lee's manipulation, The experience had left both of them shaken. They slipped out into the cool evening air, finding themselves in a nondescript alley behind Memory Corps' headquarters. Karen exhaled a slow breath as they moved away from the imposing structure. Well, that was exhilarating, but now what? Jeff looked down at the devices, the encrypted codes still displayed on the screen. It seemed like whoever had summoned them was eager to learn more about Dr. Lee's operation, and perhaps even more about Jeff and Karen themselves. Is trying to debrief us has already anticipated our escape. Karen's gaze followed his, a mix of curiosity and suspicion in her eyes. This could be another trap. Or maybe they want to help us. The uncertainty lingered between them as they made their way through the city streets, heading toward the next location. As they walked, Jeff couldn't shake the feeling that he was losing himself or gaining something more complex within this digital realm. Karen, sensing his unease, reached out and touched his arm gently. Jeff, I've been thinking a lot about our uploads, about how we're experiencing things. Jeff glanced at her, surprised by the sudden seriousness in her tone. What's on your mind? I believe there might be something more to these rogue memories, Karen said slowly. Something that connects us beyond Dr. Lee's manipulation. Jeff halted, his heart racing. The implication was staggering. You mean, we're not just victims? We could be part of a larger purpose. Karen's expression turned thoughtful. Perhaps we're not just uploads or sembimore. Maybe in some way we've evolved, transcended our human limitations. Jeff pondered her words as they continued on their path. What if the anomalies weren't glitches at all? What if his and Karen's uploads represented a new stage of evolution for humanity? As they approached the next set of coordinates, Jeff made a decision without fully articulating it to himself. He would continue exploring this digital realm, no matter where it led or how far from their original human forms they drifted. Karen must have sensed his resolve because she offered him a small smile as they turned into an unmarked parking garage. Wherever we end up, she said, we'll face it together. Their device beeped, signaling that they had reached the designated location. Jeff and Karen exchanged a glance before proceeding down a dimly lit ramp to the underground level. A sleek black sedan awaited them there. Welcome, the enigmatic stranger said as Jeff and Karen entered. We've been expecting you. The door closed behind them with an almost silent hiss. Inside, a figure clad in dark, fitted clothing sat waiting, their face obscured by shadows. Whatever comes, she whispered, we're going to make our own memories. And with that, they vanished into the night, a new chapter of their existence unfolding before them. The sedan's navigation system guided them through the winding streets until they reached a nondescript warehouse on the outskirts of the city. The driver pulled into an alleyway beside it and killed the engine. Jeff and Karen exchanged a look, their curiosity piqued as they prepared to disembark, climbed out of the car and followed the figure into the dimly lit warehouse. Rows of workstations lined the space, each one humming with activity. People in lab coats moved efficiently about their tasks while others monitored banks of computers. Welcome to our new home, Karen said quietly, her voice filled with a mix of apprehension and excitement. She glanced at Jeff before turning to face their guide. Who are you exactly? What's the purpose of this place? The figure removed its hood, revealing a woman in her late 30s with piercing green eyes and short dark hair. A badge on her lab coat identified her as Dr. Evelyn Chen, director of a facility known only as the Nexus, where researchers dedicated to exploring the potential of consciousness, she explained, leading them deeper into the warehouse. We've been following your work closely, Jeff. Your experiences with the echo chamber protocol have shown us that there's more to digital existence than we initially imagined. Jeff frowned, unsure what to make of this revelation. What do you mean? We thought Memory Core was a scam. Dr. Chen chuckled dryly. Memory Core was just one piece of the puzzle. There are forces at play here much larger and more complex than any single organization. As they walked, Karen noticed that some of the lab workers glanced in their direction with curious expressions, as if sizing them up. She shivered, suddenly uneasy about being in this environment. We're studying the nature of consciousness itself, Dr. Chen continued. The line between organic and synthetic intelligence is becoming increasingly blurred. We believe humans like yourselves can play a crucial role in our research. Jeff halted, his eyes narrowing. What kind of role? Dr. Chen stopped beside him, her expression serious. You've already demonstrated the ability to interact with and manipulate virtual realities. Imagine what we could achieve by pushing those boundaries. Karen's grip tightened on Jeff's arm, but he didn't pull away. Instead, he faced Dr. Chen calmly, his mind racing. We're not lab rats, he said firmly. We have our own goals, our own destinies to forge. Whatever your intentions, we won't let ourselves be used for someone else's agenda. Dr. Chen regarded them thoughtfully before nodding. I understand your concerns, but I assure you, our purpose is pure, to unlock the secrets of consciousness and create a better world for all beings. If you're willing to help us achieve that goal, we have much to offer in return. Jeff glanced at Karen, sensing her turmoil. She turned to him, her eyes filled with a mix of fear and determination. What do you think? She asked softly. Do we stay here, learn from them, and potentially change the world? Or do we strike out on our own, forging new paths in this strange digital realm? Jeff took a deep breath, considering the possibilities. Then he turned back to Dr. Chen with a firm resolve. We'll think about it. But for now, we need some time and space to figure things out. Dr. Chen nodded graciously. Of course, we can provide you with access to our research facilities while giving you the freedom to explore on your own terms. When you're ready, we'll be here to guide you further. With that, she led them back toward the sedan, waiting outside, her team watching them depart with a mix of curiosity and admiration. As they drove away from the Nexus, Jeff glanced over at Karen, his heart filled with an unfamiliar sense of purpose. What now? He asked, unsure if it was the question or the answer that mattered more. Karen smiled wistfully, reaching out to intertwine her fingers with his. Now, she said, we create our own memories. In that moment, as they sped off into a future filled with possibilities and uncertainties, Jeff knew that their journey had only just begun, one of self-discovery in a world where the lines between reality and simulation continued to blur, and he was ready for whatever lay ahead.